Hi there, let's show you how you can get Fujifilm film simulations on any camera and most phones. This is a revelation to me, and it's allowed me to switch systems from Fuji to Sony. And I've now also got Fuji profile film simulations on my phone as well, which is awesome. Um, so let's show you how you do it first, and then I'll show you some comparisons. You go to cobalt-image.com. I am not affiliated with this website in any way. I'm just a big fan. And what you do is you buy a raw basic pack. I don't think they should call it DNG because you don't need a DNG. For Sony cameras, it's ARW files, and for Fuji, it is RAF files. So it's just any raw file will do. This is the Lightroom pack. Yeah, they should call it the Lightroom Raw pack, or the Lightroom Basic pack. Where this one over here is for Capture One. I don't use Capture One, so we're sticking with this side. So I would change that DNG to Lightroom. If in case you hear this Cobalt, that might be a good idea because it is a bit confusing your website. And the reason I'm doing a video about this is because it is a little bit confusing. You do have to buy two things to get this to work. You have to buy a basic pack, and that's to kind of set a baseline for your device. All different generations of Fuji cameras, the X-Trans generations, they're all a little bit different. Their film simulations, the colors science is always tinkered with a little bit. So that's why you have to buy a base pack for each camera that you own. And it's £22, probably just switches to dollars or euros depending where you are. It's £22 for a phone. They've got all the iPhones, and they've got a lot of flagship Android phones, and it's £44 for a camera. They've got pretty much every camera you can think of. If it's a pretty modern, popular camera, even old ones like Canon 6D, that's pretty old. So they've got a lot of cameras, and quite a few phones as well. Now, if your phone isn't listed here, you can email them, which is what I did, and I sent them a RAW file from my Xiaomi phone, and they made a RAW pack. I don't know if they made it specifically for me because it's Xiaomi Mi 10T, and I've got a Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro, but it does work on my phone, so awesome. And like I said, they're cheaper at 22, whereas cameras 44. If you've got two different Sony cameras, you probably will have to buy a base pack for each one. It's worth it. I know people are going to find this weird, but it is worth it. So that doesn't give you a lot. That just gives you like an alternative to Adobe, the standard Adobe color profile. They do give you some free profiles down here, but I've not really used them yet. Free Cobalt color profile pack, but I think you'll need the base pack for those. So the real reason we're using this is for the Fuji film simulations that they do. They also do Leica and Ricoh and others that do actual film simulations as well, like Kodachrome and whatnot. But I like the Fuji digital colors, and that's why this is how I was able to change from using Fuji all the time to using Sony cameras, because I use this instead of selecting the film simulations in Lightroom. I just use this pack in Lightroom instead, and they're pretty darn accurate. So it's £54, probably just switches to euros or dollars wherever you are, and you can use some sliders on the page if you want to compare them. And I'm also going to do a little comparison now in Lightroom. I am going through a phone and on a laptop here, so you're not going to get exactly the right colors, but this should give you at least a rough idea. So this is the Lightroom version of Provia. Was taken on an XE2, a Fujifilm XE2 camera, and I'm going to compare it with their first pack, the Cobalt Image first pack of simulations. So this is Lightroom, and this is Cobalt Image's Provia. The main difference to me was these buckets went a little bit deeper in red, a little bit more saturated. Let's go to the most saturated one, which is like the vivid profile for Fuji. So this is Cobalt Image's Velvia. and where am I going? Here. And this is Lightroom. So not a massive change there. The red became more red, and going back, yeah, it's just a bit more orange. I'm not sure which one is the most accurate. Lightroom's inbuilt Fuji profiles are not exactly the same as Fuji's, but they are closer than I expected. I always thought they were quite, they weren't that accurate, but I compared it with Capture One, which is supposed to be more accurate because Capture One worked with Fujifilm, and I found that Lightroom's very close to Capture One. So they do change for every X-Trans season or X-Trans generation. They do tweak the colors as well. So that's why there are different generations in the Cobalt Image profiles as well. They've got 3 different Fuji packs. So this is the pack that was made when the GFX 100 came out. Where's Velvia? That's right at the bottom. So quite a jump there in the saturation, especially those reds really started popping there. It became brighter, whereas the X Pro 2 came out in the X-Trans 3 era. Let's just go back to Lightroom's version. There's a little bit duller that. I prefer the Cobalt one. I'm not sure which version of Cobalt I prefer though. This is the oldest Cobalt Velvia, and then they made this one. Definitely more pink, isn't it, in this one, in those reds. And then the new one, this one they brought out very recently. This one's even brighter. That's more pleasing. I don't like the GFX 100 version of Velvia as much, and you will find that this most recent pack that they brought out is brighter than the Lightroom ones. Let's click on Lightroom now. Yeah, it just went a bit darker there. So Velvia is supposed to be, the vivid profile is supposed to be very bright. So let's have a look at Classic Chrome. This is Lightroom's version of Classic Chrome, muted colors. It's got kind of brown tones. They've lightened up the blues. And let's have a look at the first version of Classic Chrome that Cobalt made. Not much difference there at all, was there? Then they made the GFX 100. So this came out around about the X-Trans 4 era. I don't know if it counts as an X-Trans 4 camera though, because it was made with a Bayer sensor. Which one are we on? Classic Chrome. Brighter. That looks a bit bright to me. I don't know if Classic Chrome would ever have reds that bright, but I've not owned that camera, so I can't be sure. And then this is the most recent version. So this is for X-Trans 5 cameras. So Classic Chrome. Yeah, it's got a bit more subtle again actually there. So that looks very close to me. Let's just click on the Lightroom version again. Yeah, a little bit more subtle with Lightroom. So the benefit is you get 3 different versions of the color profiles, which you may think that's them being indecisive, but it's not, because Fujifilm have 5 generations of X-Trans sensors, and each generation they tweaked it, they changed it. So for me, the X Pro 2 is the most natural looking, because I'm I've used X-Trans 3 and X-Trans 2 more often than the newer cameras. I had an X Pro 2 and I had an XE3 and an XE2. XE3 is X-Trans 3, XE2 is X-Trans 2. So this is X-Trans 3. And I did notice that when I got the XT3 that the colors did pop a bit more. So that should be the GFX 100 ones. Let's just go back to Classic Chrome again. Yeah, I just don't know if that red is right. But everything else seems absolutely fine. To me, they're really good simulations, and I'm very happy with them. But I think I would go for the X Pro 2 version of Classic Chrome. And then if you want the newer film simulations, now this is one reason why you might want this pack if you already have a Fujifilm camera. because most Fujifilm cameras don't have bleach bypass and classic negative and nostalgic negative, especially the X100V, which everyone's going on about at the moment. That's the most popular camera at the moment. That doesn't have nostalgic negative. This is it. It's a nice kind of faded look, a little bit filmic, like classic neg. So nostalgic neg is a bit softer, a bit nicer for skin tones. Classic neg, a bit harsher, not so forgiving for skin blemishes and stuff because it's a bit more contrasty. I love these two colors, and they're what I use most of the time. I used to really like, I started off with Velvia, then I moved over to classic chrome, then acros, and nowadays I really love nostalgic negative and classic negative. I've just not decided yet because they've only brought out this most recent version of the Fuji profiles. I'm not sure which one I prefer most because that red bucket there definitely looks too bright to me. But all the other colors look nice. And same with nostalgic negative. All the colors look fine. It's just these two buckets are a little bit too bright. But if you find that's the case, then you can go back and use the older versions of the profiles, which are more subtle. So yeah, there we go. I think you've seen enough. You can use the website to have a look as well. These are a few of the other profiles that they do. I'm just flicking through them, but I think you get the idea. I've used lots of presets and I tried the recipes as well, and I hated all of them. None of them came close to imitating the film simulations. I really like what Cobalt Image have done. Their most recent pack, I'm not 100% about, but I think if you buy the Fuji digital emulations, you will get all three versions. I got the two versions when I bought it, and then they've recently brought out a download with the new pack, and they gave us that for free. We could just go back to our account and download that. So I'm more used to using the older ones, which, yeah, they're just more like the generation of X-Trans that I've used. So perhaps the X-Trans 5 are naturally more saturated. I don't know because I've not used those cameras. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. This is why I moved from Fujifilm to Sony. If this wasn't available, I don't think I'd be using a Sony camera right now. And the fact that I've just been able to get a pack for my phone is awesome because now I'm going to start using my phone more often. And yeah, that's great. I think the two reasons people buy Fuji cameras is for the experience, the extra controls you get, the retro design, but also people love to use the film simulations, the colors, because they're very unique. And this way isn't giving you an option to do it in camera. You are having to use Lightroom or Capture One and apply the profiles later, but you get access to every single profile and even different versions of those profiles. So I think it's awesome. And I recommend you give it a try. Yes, cobalt-image.com. If you want to give them a try. Like I said, I'm not paid to do this or anything, so this is just me as a fan because I love this stuff. I think it's worth spreading the news. Cheers.